So in this video, we're going to cover how to fix the good morning squat without needing to use accessory exercises to fix the issue. So before we start, what I want to go over is that you can do all the accessory exercises in the world to improve whatever hip extensor strength, back extensor strength and whatnot, to try to help fix the good morning squat. However, if the technical fault which is leading to you doing the good morning squat is not fixed, then you're going to continue having problems. You can get as strong as you want in this area, but if you do not fix the sole thing or movements, there might be multiple movements, which are causing the good morning squat, it is not going to be fixed until you fix those core issues. Now with those core issues, I've identified about 5 common ones that occur. There might be a few more, but then this video will go for like an hour. So I'll go over the 5 common ones, and then the 6th one is just more program considerations. So this first one is a really common one, and it's probably the easiest to fix of all. And that is trying to squat with a chest or a torso angle which is too high, and this is relevant for a low bar squat only. This whole video is not for a high bar squat, it's predominantly just for a low bar squat. So generally what happens if people's chests are falling, so just to be clear of what I mean by the chest fall, it's when people come down like this, and then when they stand up, the chest falls like that, and then they come up, so it kind of looks like a good morning squat, or the squat is like segmented, I guess we can say. Their hips and knees are not moving in sync. So generally what happens if people have a chest fall, intuitively the go-to cue would be I need to keep my chest higher and I need to keep more upright so I can offset the forward falling. However, what we generally see happens is that the harder you try to fight against it and be more upright in the low bar squat, the more the chest starts to fall. So, what that looks like, it will probably look like in an exaggerated fashion. Alright, people put a low bar position, so on the kind of the top border of the scapula. Alright. They'll generally look straight ahead, try to keep the chest high, be very upright like this, and then they go like that, and then they're up. Okay, so we see the hips shoot back, the chest falls, and then we go in that position. My theory of what is happening here with the chest fall when the chest is too high is the chest and the hips are moving into a position to which they feel the strongest in to perform the squat. When you're doing a low bar squat, you're naturally going to have a forward amount of chest fall to satisfy the demand of having that bar over the middle of your feet. If you're too upright and the bar is not over the middle of your feet, you'll probably find that your chest is going to fall forward automatically because it wants to get this bar over your midfoot. So, what I suggest people do, that's when they are squatting too upright and they're getting the chest fall, the position to which your chest is falling into, that is the position to which you should be squatting to. So rather than fight against the chest fall, just purposely squat into the chest fall. So, if I am upright in this position, coming down like this, and then my chest falls like this, okay? We went from here to here. This position here is probably the position I should be aiming to squat to. If we put our chest in the position to which we fall into, for the most part, we're just going to cancel out that distance that we're falling into. So, what I'm going to do instead, rather than look up, okay, where your eyes are looking, your chest position is going to change. When I'm low bar squatting, I want my torso angle to fall forward by some amount, and I usually want my chest to be falling somewhere around here. So if there was a laser beam shooting at my chest, when I'm in the bottom position, okay, my chest is aimed towards the floor, not up here, it's down here. So, as I said, if you're upright, you come down and your chest falls there, then cool, just squat into that position. So you cancel out the chest fall. So I'll be squatting more into the position that my chest is falling into, opposed to trying to fight it. So the fix of this technique fault is quite easy. If your chest is too upright, the position to which your chest is falling down to, that is the position that you should probably be aiming for when you're at the bottom of the squat. Okay? So if I'm here and I'm falling to here, then that is the position I should probably be aiming to go into when I'm at the bottom of the squat. So these next 3 cues all kind of fit into the same category of technical fault because they all end in the same end result position. And basically what that position is that the weight is shifting too far into the toes or too much into the knees when you're at the bottom of the squat. So then if I've shifted too far into my toes, what generally happens is the hips shoot back to get the balance, to get your center of mass back over your midfoot. If your center of mass goes too far forward, well then as a reflex, your body is going to shift some amount of weight back. So your center of mass doesn't continue drifting forward towards your toes. Because if your center of mass keeps drifting forward, well then you will fall over. So therefore, as a reflex, if your center of mass travels forward, your body is going to shift some weight back so we can pull that center of mass backwards. So what that looks like, if I come forward into my knees, my hips will generally shoot back, and then if my hips shoot back, I'm in this forward falling position, and then I make the good morning squat. So these next 3 faults will all fall into the category that I just explained of shifting the weight into the toes and then the hip shooting back. So the first one is a problem that I see people doing, well, they're trying to do a low bar squat. However, they have the bar too high up on their neck. If you are filming directly from the side, and if you have the bar too high on your neck, and then you've got a little bit of forward lean in your squat, you will see directly from the side that this bar is going to be more towards over your toes. So the bar will end up going forward towards the toes, pressure goes towards the toes, so then when you hit that bottom position, as I said, that the hips are going to shoot back, and then it looks like a good morning squat. So usually we want the bar in a low bar squat on about the top border of our shoulder blades, but some people might do it more higher here up on the traps, okay? So when I get down in the bottom position here, the bar is not in my midfoot, it's over my toes. And because, again, the weight has shifted into my toes, as I come up, the hips are going to shoot back to get the bar over my midfoot, which ends up being into a good morning squat. I find when I get people that have this problem, they don't actually know that the bar is too high on their back. They are just not aware. To make yourself aware, or for you to check if your bar is in the right position or not, I suggest doing what I just said. Get your camera and go directly on the side, filming the edge of the bar directly on the side so you can see the bar relative to your midfoot. However, it has to be directly on the side. If you're a little bit off, it might look it's directly on the sides, but then the bar may not look like it's in the midfoot because the camera is not exactly to the side of the barbell. So, film yourself directly from the side, do some squats. if you see in the top 1/3 of your squat that the bar shifts towards your toes, okay, and then it continues going to your toes, that might be a sign that the bar is too high on your back, because regardless what you do, the bar keeps shifting towards your toes. Likewise, you might even see it when you're just standing there. If you've got the camera directly on the side, and you're standing, okay, if you can already see that the edge of the barbell is towards the toes and it's not in the middle of the foot, then you know that the bar is too high. Then to test to see if this is the problem, that the bar's too high, do another squat, film it from the side, put the bar a little bit lower so it looks like it's over the middle of your feet. Then squat. Naturally, your squat is going to have a more forwards chest lean. If the bar is lower on your back, you're going to get generally more of a torso lean to keep that bar over your midfoot. However, put the bar lower and see if it significantly improves your forwards chest fall. If it does, if your squat has improved by quite a bit, well then maybe that was the main issue. Sometimes there's multiple issues that people do to lead to the chest fall, but maybe that was your main issue, that just the bar was too high on your back. The next problem is shifting your weight into your toes or your knees, similar to what I just explained with the bar being too high on your back, but in many cases I see with people that they can have perfect bar position, into the position that they need. However, when they come down to the bottom, their knees significantly go over their toes, okay? Or you see the hips move forward, or you can even see the shin angle goes too far diagonal. Yes, there are some people with really long legs and their knees are going to go over their toes by some amount. But for a lot of people, that when you're in the bottom position of a low bar squat, not a high bar squat, when you're in the bottom position of a low bar squat, generally people's knees are around in line with your toes. Again, unless you've got really long legs. If you see the knees go way too far over the toes, or another way to look at it, if you see the hip, alright, if you think of the joints of the hip, if there was like a motion tracker on my hip, if you see that as I'm coming down, it's going forward this way towards my toes, and then what will happen is, again, the problem that I told you before at the start of this video, that if the weight shifts too far this way, then the hips are going to shoot back and then you're in a good morning squat. So again, you can look at the knees relative to the toes, or you can even think of a motion tracker that's on your hips. If you're coming down and it comes forward like this, you'll see it come back like that, and then you're going to come up. So the general rule that I give people, in the top 1/3 of your squat, your knees are going to come forward by some amount. So from here to here, your knees come forward by some amount. However, this is about the peak of how far my knees have to go relative to my toes. Now watch, when I drop, my knees did not drift any further forward. So I'll do that again. From here to here, that's as far as my knees have to go. Now I can drop without my knees going forward to my toes. If my knees went forward to my toes, it'll look like this. So rather than stopping here, that's as far as my knees had to go, they'll keep going forward like this. Then my hips will shoot back. Another giveaway to see if you're shifting too much weight into your toes, you could look at the shoe. Very slightly then, my heels came off the floor. If your heels are coming off the floor when you're at the bottom of the squat, you're shifting too much weight into your toes. Likewise, if your heels may be still in contact with the floor, but you can see the shoe, you'll see the pressure of the shoe. It looks like it's rocking. You'll see when you put too much pressure on the front foot because it gets squishy and then the back will rise a little bit. If you see that happening with the shoe, then you probably know, in conjunction with knees going forward, hips going forward, and you've got the good morning position. If you see that happening in your shoe, likely you're putting too much weight into the toes, which is causing the hips to shoot back, and then you've got a good morning squat. So the general fix, as I just explained before, of not shifting your weight forwards to your toes. One, make sure your pressure is in the midfoot of your feet. You're always thinking midfoot pressure. Two, that knee trick that I just said in the top 1/3 of the movement, your knees are going to go forward by some amount, and then they should not drift forward anymore when you're dropping down to the bottom of the squat. And then the last technique fault that falls into this category of the center of mass shifting. Some people, when they squat, they sit their hips back like this at the start, and then when they come down, because they've shifted their weight too far back at the start, generally what's going to happen is the weight is going to shift back forward. Alright, so the center of mass, when you sit the hips back, is going to go back a little bit like this, because you put it too far back. If you put the center of mass too far back one way, it's usually got a pendulum the other way. So center of mass will start here, someone shifts their hips back, center of mass goes this way, then when they start coming down from the squat, center of mass goes towards the toes, then because the weight's in the toes, the hips shoot back, good morning squat, and then that's how their squat is. It's a good morning squat. So to kind of demonstrate what I'm trying to talk about, again, it's probably going to look exaggerated. Now when people start, they sit their hips back first, then they come down, ends up in their knees, hips shoot back, good morning squat. So do not do this, okay? It's shifting my weight back. Instead, when you squat, hips are straight down. Your knees and hips should break at the same time. So you're keeping your center of mass and your pressure in the middle of your feet. So watch my hips and knees. When I come down, they break at the same time. Versus if I do this, my hips are breaking before my knees. If I went like that, if I go like this, all right, we don't want that. Hips and knees break at the same time. So do not sit your hips back when you start the squat, because that could be contributing to the weight shifting forward towards your toes, which creates the hip shooting back, which creates the good morning squat. Now this cue falls into a similar category. Those last ones was all talking about that your weight shifting back and then forward into the toes, and then the hip shooting back. Sometimes people have really good squat technique and their center of mass is straight down, but then what they do when they get down to the bottom, they shoot their hips back, okay? And then, what I've been explaining so many times now, that if your hips shoot back, the chest is going to forward fall. Which is, let's say I come straight down, I'm very, very, very straight, then my hips shoot back like this. Now I'm in the good morning position, okay? Looks like a good morning squat. When you are standing up, do not shift your hips back. Your hips are going to come straight down and they should come straight back up. So, my hips are coming straight down, they come straight back up. They do not shift back, okay? So again, the technical fault is that people come straight down, but then they push their hips back. Do not push your hips back. Hips come in a mainly straight up and down motion. Now the last one, let's say your technique in your squat is perfect. Everything I just explained, you do not do any of those. However, once you get to a particular load, when it starts to get heavy or you start to get fatigued, your squat starts to turn into a good morning. So maybe in this instance, you were just weak in whatever muscles are going to keep you maintaining that position. You were just weak in that position, so you need to get stronger being in that position and holding your back in a position where the chest doesn't fall forward. When I see this happen, that people, it's not their technique problems, it's more just being strong in the position. If you are not having a chest fall for the majority of your squats, let's say you do your warm-ups, let's say you're working up to 160 kilo squat. All right, you do your warm-ups, you go like, I don't know, 60, 80 kilos, 100 kilos, 120, 140. Let's say in all those 5 squats you have no chest fall and your technique looks perfect. However, once you get to 160, the chest fall starts to happen. So maybe in this instance, the load is just too heavy for you to maintain that torso position. For you to get strong in that position, and if you want to get good at maintaining your torso position in a squat, you need to practice maintaining your torso position in a squat. If you continue doing loads which make you lose your chest position, you are going to continue losing your chest position because that is how you're practicing. So therefore, using that example, if 160 was my breaking point, let's say the max weight I can use, let's say for 5 reps. Let's say the max weight I can use and maintain a really nice position is 150 kilos by 5. That's my technical max. If I did 6 reps or if I did 152.5 by 5, my chest starts to fall. So 150 is my absolute max. Rather than starting my weights or starting my training block at 150 kilos by 5, I want to be a little bit more sub-maximal, because where do you work up from that? So I might do my program for 140 kilos by 5. Sure, my legs are strong enough to do 160 by 5, but my technique is not strong enough to do 160 by 5. My technical max was 150 by 5. So therefore, I'm going to start a little bit more sub-maximal. I'm going to be on 140 by 5, and then so I can hold the technique, and then slowly add the load by say 2 kilos, 2.5 kilos each week, whilst I'm holding that chest position, so I can slowly increase the amount of load that I can handle whilst holding technique. Over time, you will get strong in holding your technique with increasing loads, and eventually your technical max will catch up to your absolute max, and then you can do max effort lifts whilst holding a pretty good chest angle.